Hey everybody, this is two EdTech guys take questions and share cool stuff. And it is so much fun to be able to spend a little time with you and to hopefully talk about some things that might make your life as an educator a little bit easier. Thank you for joining us. We do this about once a month, sometimes twice, just kind of depends on the arrangement of the stars, all good. And who are we? Richard, start us off here.
So I'm Richard Byrne, and I run freetechforteachers.com as well as practicaledtech.com. My attempt to help teachers learn how to use technology in their classrooms in meaningful ways and helpful ways for themselves and for their students.
Attempt, he says. Succeed, I'd say. So there you go. All right, well, good. Now, I run a little nonprofit, Save the World, called Next Vista for Learning. It's an online library of videos by and for teachers and students everywhere, free to use, free to contribute to, free to download from, all for a student audience, all screened content, my own little attempt to save the universe from ignorance, one creative video at a time. And you'll find videos about different academic stuff, communities around the world, service to others. There's a lot more too, stuff about careers. For those learning English, we have over 600 videos. You know, in that space, we've got webinars aplenty that we've recorded, including this one. This two EdTech guys take questions and share cool stuff. We run projects, including Improve the World in 90 seconds or less. Share an idea that might make the world a better place, and we'll put it in front of service groups like Kiwanis clubs and Rotary clubs and such around the world, and they will look at it and go, huh. That idea from that kiddo in Montreal or Amarillo or wherever that kiddo is, we like that. We'll launch a project. Why not? Why not? Get involved. If you're curious, just let me know. So how does two EdTech guys take questions and share cool stuff work? We take questions and share cool stuff. So let's jump into the questions, and I think you can get us started with that, Richard. What are we going to start with on this?
All right. So the first one came from Corinne, who wrote, after reading your post on finding media, I planned a lesson for my fifth graders. Unfortunately, Unsplash is blocked by my district as being inappropriate. And our tech coordinator said that even Creative Commons can have questionable content. Do you have any suggestions besides photos for class that are possibly vetted for elementary schools? I was really surprised at Creative Commons because that's always been my go-to. So first of all, I would say this. One of the things I do with elementary school teachers fairly often is show them or help them build their own B-roll media galleries is what I recommend doing. So that if you have, let's say, a tech director who's really kind of got things locked down in terms of search in your school, you go ahead. It takes a little bit of time for you as a teacher, but I've actually done it myself for a history project I was helping my high school students with. It takes a little bit of time, but go ahead and build a gallery of a couple hundred pictures that you put into a Google Drive folder or a OneDrive folder if you're an Office 365 school, some kind of common folder that your students can go into and pull pictures out of that you've already vetted. So that's one thing to think about. Photos for class is great because it does the image attribution. Though I should point out the photos for class really is just pulling images from pixabay.com. So that's something to consider there. And I'm kind of surprised about Unsplash as well. Rushton, have you seen Unsplash have inappropriate photographs in the past?
Well, see, here's the thing, right? The word inappropriate is a mile wide. It's a mile wide, right? So like my suggestion is actually the same one you did, which is to build your own set. And I'll come back to that, but let me say a couple things first. Unsplash, search.creativecommons.org or ccsearch.org or wherever you go. There's nothing that's 100%. Your tech director is right that there's going to be material that somebody's going to say, well, that's not appropriate. You just that person's right. Does that mean you should lock everything down? There's the more complex question, right? Because at some point, somebody should teach kids how to deal with this stuff. And quick rant on that. Hey, if no one ever explains to them that's inappropriate, right? Hey, that woman in that picture is being treated as an object and not just as a person, like whatever that conversation might look like in your setting. No one ever teaches the kid that. That's a fault on our backs, right? Like we need to be able to say that hey, we're going to talk to kids about what it means to treat people properly. And most of the time, what you see in inappropriate material has to do with treating people as objects instead of as people who are worthy of respect. Now, coming back to the idea of building kind of your own set, understand that when Richard talks about, hey, get your own B-roll set, whether it's a shared folder or a shared set of slides or whatever it is, this is not about just one activity. So if you are really looking for interesting pictures that are good at prompting discussion and things like this, you can use those pictures to launch things in class, like one of my favorite starters for class, right? All right, everybody, turn to your buddy and explain how what we learned in class yesterday relates to this picture. Go. And then you've got a picture there of this guy, who's the thinker, and it's a book, whatever, right? But if there's no obvious connection, the kids have to then creatively work out what is the connection? And then they're starting to talk about what did we do yesterday? And they need to go through that actively rather than you just ticking it all off for them, which means that they're like moving into a lower and lower gear with regard to how they're going to use your time in class. So you've got prompts with those things. You've got references for things that you studied before. If you talk about them, it's really useful to have a big set of images that you can call up for whatever it is you might want to do. So Richard, I think I cut you off as you were talking about this earlier, but essentially, I strongly recommend coming up with a set that you like, and just in the back of your mind, remember, somebody's going to have to talk to kids about what inappropriate is and means at some point.
Yeah, and I'll just wrap up this topic question rant with something that Ken Shelton, our buddy Ken Shelton, told me years ago, 10 years ago now, probably, maybe longer. It's like, if you think that you're going to need a picture of rain someday, go outside when it's raining and take a picture.
Nice.
That was the whole purpose of a lot of those 365 projects that were popular 10 years ago or so. Mm-hmm. Take a picture a day, and by the end of the year, you've got 365 pictures of your own that you can use for a whole bunch of stuff. But, as Ken said to me, you need a picture of rain, go take a picture of rain, or in my case, you need a picture of snow, take a picture anytime.
You can do that in the 9 months of the year that it snows in.
Yeah, I was saying, take a picture anytime between October and April. But you can get a picture of snow. So, all right, let's move on. And if you haven't met our friend Ken, you need to. All right. Emily asked a question. I'm looking for a replacement for Adobe Spark. I am working on making PSAs with students in middle school. I like the free images, music, and easy interface with Adobe Spark. Do you have any suggestions for free sites or platforms like Adobe Spark that are easy to use? So first of all, I'll point out that Adobe Spark is now just called Adobe Creative Cloud Express. Why they changed the name, I have no idea. But it has all the same stuff that Adobe Spark did before. So
yeah, that was actually the big question when I looked at this question, which to me was, what might prompt one to move away from Spark/Express? Because that's a fantastic tool on so many fronts.
I don't know. Emily didn't say why she was looking to move away. I think maybe she was just a little confused that Adobe Spark didn't exist anymore, but it was now called Creative Cloud Express. That might be it. I'd also suggest, depending on how long the video is going to be, you can use WeVideo's free. WeVideo has a free plan that would work. If your school has MacBooks, iMovie, or if your school has iPads, iMovie would be fine as well. The iMovie doesn't have the integrated search for images, so that's a downside. But other than that, still pretty darn easy to use.
Absolutely. And if you get Chromebooks, like Screencast it, use Screencastify and go from there. You got options.
Yeah, I'll say there's also a tool I used a few years back. now I can't, now I'm blanking on the name of it. Now I'm looking for it real quick. I completely blanked on it now. So I'll come back to it later. It'll come back to me by the end of this show. I'll remember.
Okay.
All right. So let's move on to Tammy's question. What do you think?
Good.
All right. Tammy had a question about this week. So, by the way, everyone should know that this week, Monday, was National School Librarians Day. So, and Tammy is a school librarian, and she works at a school that shows appreciation for all staff. So this week, I've been shown the love for sure. I'd like to send each class a thank you note for sending me cards. I would like to send a fun, animated type of card. Can you recommend a site to do this? So my first idea was in Canva. You can use, there's a huge gallery of card templates in Canva, and many of them are animated, and you can download those as an animated GIF. You could also just share a link to your animated GIF, and it becomes its own little website. So you can do that with Canva. You might also use Adobe Creative Cloud Express, also has that capability. Years ago, I had a class that made digital greeting cards with Animoto and kind of just did a quick 25-second digital thank you. So those are a couple as well. Rushton, I liked your idea. You want to share that one?
Yeah, so if you are not like just hell-bent on it being an animated image, right? And it's more about, hey, the reason I want that is because it's a little bit more exciting for the kids. Then consider maybe just making something that's a little more personal. So let's say that you put a few images of, say, your cats or your dogs, and in some slides, and screencast that, right? Where you're saying, hey, thank you so much for the cool notes you sent me, third graders. And Molly the puppy says that you're awesome, right? And little things like that, where it's your voice and it's stuff that's very much about you, I think are at least as impactful as an animated image.
Yeah, so cool.
What do you think? Cool stuff, or the next question?
Cool stuff. Cool stuff.
Boom.
For sure.
You are up. Go.
All right. So this is a website, an app called Kikori. I'll put the link in the chat. Kikori, Kikori. And what it does is, or what it is, I should say, is a huge gallery of social emotional learning lesson plans or activities that you can do with your students. There's hundreds of them in there. And you can filter them according to age level, according to the type of activity you want to do. Like if you want to do an icebreaker style activity or more of a group discussion type of activity, you can filter it by energy, by like group enthusiasm or energy level, whether or not you need extra materials or not. There's tons of filters in there. But they all follow the same format. So they're really easy to read. And teachers can also contribute their own. So if you have a great SEL lesson plan idea or lesson activity that you want to contribute, you can do that on the Kikori app. They have an Android app, an iOS app, and a website that you can do all those things on. So it's timely. More and more, I'm getting a lot of emails from companies who are doing work on social and emotional learning. In fact, I was just talking to some folks from Newzella, and they are now getting into more social emotional learning things to go along with all their kind of core stuff that they've always done. So check that out.
From me, something that should bring a smile to your face, but let me say that there is some controversy here. So I'm going to share some controversy. So what this is every week I post a thing called the NVIV, the Next Vista Inspiring Video. And what it is it's a page, it's a web page. It's got a video in it from just somewhere online that I've watched and thought, okay, that's interesting in some fashion. And I've put some questions in there that are designed to be like writing prompts, discussion prompts, things like this. My goal is to ask the not obvious question and hopefully prompt a little thought there. If there's a teacher who's like, oh my God, I need an activity for the class I'm taking over in 3 minutes. Boom, right? That kind of thing. So often I find these videos that are really, fascinating in this regard. This one is funny. All right. It's this guy who has created all sorts of different machines. His channel is called Joseph's Machines. And in this case, he was making a machine that would allow him to do more exercising. So this bar keeps going down. The soiled diaper that is hanging there, he's trying to avoid at all costs. So all right, fine. And there's just kind of enough with it that you're like, that's funky crazy. How interesting. However, there are issues that we run into, I guess. Because I always ask for feedback when I put this out, and the first person who wrote back was like, "This is inane, a total waste of my time," and I'm like, "Wow, all right," because my thought is that if what we're doing is trying to figure out clever ways to address things that may be challenges in our lives, it's interesting to think of it in a creative way. And then I got like 10 more thoughts that were all like, this is great, I laughed, and blah, 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 blah. So I guess you just never know. But if you're curious about the controversy, around this one, then by all means, give this a look. I'll stick this link in the chat in just a minute. I'll add, by the way, that when I was looking at this site, I did the usual thing of going in and saying like, all right, how many videos has he got up? How many views has the sum total of all his videos? This guy's had over 500 million with a B, 500 million views on his videos. That's pretty interesting. So anyway, that's that. And so hopefully, that when you watch it, you won't be struck as offended by the inane nature of it or it being a waste of time or anything. Hopefully it'll be kind of fun for you to watch.
Well, the waste of time. One person's trash and another person's treasure, right? Like,
totally. And I appreciate that the person
like Gallagher. Gallagher's not for everybody, but he sells out shows all over the place. So I don't know if Gallagher's right. Speaking of inane workouts or weird workouts, right? Is Gallagher that always smash things at the end of the
Vegematic. Yeah. Sledge-o-matic.
That's right.
That's right.
Yeah, and if you want. And Rushton, you just inspired me to share this link to Open Phys Ed. If you haven't, Open Phys Ed in their National Field Day has a ton of free resources for phys ed teachers or anyone else who wants to do a field day. There's a lot of activities that are not your traditional gym class, phys ed class activities, which I think is really great. Right? Like getting away from basketball, baseball, soccer, your traditional, like the most athletic kids are gonna have fun, and the other kids are not gonna have. Like, these are like things where like doesn't matter how athletic or not athletic you are, how much how much knowledge you have of sports or don't have of sports, you can have a lot of fun, like with the rubber duck relay or the ketchup bottle tag, or all kinds of things that are just a little bit different. So check that out.
Openphysed.org field day. We have got that in the links, which we will send to everyone who registered for this fine webinar that we are sharing with you. Of course, people sent questions as well. Richard, what's our next question?
The next question, where were we? This one came from Patty, who wrote, I have a student who is colorblind and requested the following extension be added, and she linked to the extension, but it was denied by our director of technology, who was concerned by only 32 reviews for an extension that has been out for 4 years, and when you go to the publisher's website, it doesn't exist. Those are red flags, and I would agree with your director of technology. Yeah, probably don't install that one. If it hasn't been updated in 4 years and the website for the developer doesn't exist, yeah, I'm going to go with don't install that extension. That said, she's looking for something similar to help a colorblind student. My first suggestions were just to take a look at the accessibility settings on that student's laptop. And I sent Patty directions for how to do that for Mac, Windows, and for a Chromebook. Because that, depending on the student, just changing the color scheme in the accessibility settings might be enough. And you might not need to use any third-party tools at all. Otherwise, Rushton, you had a suggestion there.
Yeah, so just tossed a couple of links into the chat. One is a site called color-blindness.com. And I kind of gave that a good look. There wasn't like tons of information about the people who put it out, but it seemed to have a good organization and good ideas there. So might be a good site to check out. And then I also ran across an article from ViewSonic, the monitor people, right? And that was a surprisingly detailed article about the many varieties of color blindness. So we think of colorblind as like, oh yeah, red and green. There's like so many different kinds of color. I didn't know this. So many different kinds of color blindness, and loads of good info about different technologies that can apply. So both of those links will be in the links page that you will get if you registered, or if somebody sends you the email that I will send some point after the show today. So there we go.
Cool. All right, are we ready for the next one, Rushton?
Totally, bring it.
Your favorite question and mine, the single most commonly asked question that we get. Pat and Judith might know it because they've been here for, I think, every webinar we've ever done. It is, what do you use to create your videos? Is it Loom, Screencastify, or something else? It is something else. I use Screencast-O-Matic.
She does.
I use the paid version of Screencast-O-Matic. Costs $25 a year. And you can do all kinds of things with it, like that little halo effect around the cursor, putting my head into an oval instead of a circle or a square shape. Yep. You can do green screens, fade in, fade out, transitions, text overlays, all kinds of stuff for about $25 a year. You can do almost all the exact same things with the free version of Loom or the free version of Screencastify. The reason I buy the paid version of Screencast-O-Matic is that I like to have it on my desktop, because there are times when I have to record things that are on my desktop and are not in my web browser. And yeah, so that's why.
All right. Nothing to add. So
nothing to add to that?
Nope. So let's go to Bruce's question.
All right. Bruce's question is an interesting one.
Yes.
And it's an instructive lesson for anyone who runs into something similar. He wrote, by the way, Bruce figured it out on his own before I wrote back to him. But this one has me stumped. In Google Docs, text flashes off while typing, sometimes appearing below as ghost text at the same time. My young learners find this very distracting, and I cannot for the life of me figure out why, other than it happened after a recent Google update and has not fixed itself. Searching online, I find nobody else with this issue. Thoughts, Bruce? So, number one, and they're connected. So Bruce figured out that in Chrome, he had hardware acceleration turned on. So setting in Chrome. And if he turned it off, that made the problem go away, which is really more indicative of a larger problem that I've seen on students' laptops in the past, and I've actually seen it on faculty laptops when faculty have brought in like old clunker laptops from home or whatnot. And it's almost always a lack of available RAM. In other words, your machine is maxed out. Usually with students, it happens because they have like 75 things running in the background and they just leave them running all the time. That's usually the culprit of that. And so shut those things off because you don't need them running in the background if you're just writing a Google Doc. With faculty, whenever I've looked at it on faculty computers, it has almost always been a case of somebody has a ton of adware, bloatware, crapware installed on their computer that's running in the background and they don't even know it. And they almost always say, I didn't install that. And I'll say, yes, you did. You just didn't know you did. When you clicked on that ad or that pop-up that said, click here to whatever, yeah, you installed it. Another surefire sign that you've got a lot of that on your laptop takes 10 minutes to boot up. Right? I'm not being facetious. I see this a lot. You know, I'll have a teacher bring me his or her laptop and like, yeah, I never shut it off because it takes so long to start up. I'm like, all right. Yeah, you've got some things running in the background that you don't need to have running in the background. Usually I spend a lot of time uninstalling a lot of programs / defragging hard drives, you know, all kind of frontline PC health things to do. So, yeah.
I think I would add to your fine summary of likely culprits that one of the things that we should all kind of have square away in our heads when we're thinking about issues with our computers. One is, one is, if you restart, does it go away, right? And granted, if it takes 10 minutes to restart your computer, that'd be an issue. Now, if it does go away, then all right, you know, this gives loads of credence to what we're talking about with like, oh, well, you had 112 tabs open, that might be part of it. But if it comes back, all right, then it's like, think in terms of troubleshooting. Is it the same in Chrome as it would be, say, in Firefox or Safari? If you put a different computer in the same space and logged in under the same account, would that bring the same thing? So that you can kind of figure out, is it the machine? Is it the account? What are we dealing with? So there, you know, I think getting into that space of like, okay, how many variables can I eliminate as I do this is probably a good troubleshooting primer for you as you jump into that.
Yeah.
Would you agree, Richard?
I would agree. And if you want to if you want to start getting into more of a little more technical solution, you know, in Windows computer or on a Mac for that matter, you can go in, use your command line or your terminal on a Mac, and you can change your startup order so that only the programs that are absolutely necessary are running, and you can, you know, that can help. But
have you made a video about that kind of thing?
No, I haven't. I haven't, only because there are people who can probably do a better job of that particular video than I can.
Fair enough.
I will say that, and also most people who read my blog are not interested in that information, because if you know how to do that, or you know that you would want to do that, you already know how to do it. I mean, that's probably, it sounds a little bit odd to say that, but yeah, like if your thought process even goes to, oh, I'm going to change the startup order by using the command line, you probably already know how to do that.
You're probably good in that front.
Yeah.
Well said. Now, of course, at some point one has to learn, but leaving that aside.
Yeah, it's something one has to learn, and you know, so yeah, maybe I should write a blog post about it. I don't know.
Speaking of good things to learn, you might want to learn that by perusing the monthly Next Vista newsletter, you could win a $5 Starbucks card, because I give one away every month. And you know, not just tons of people enter. I mean, I send this out to thousands of people, and I think a lot of people are like, oh yeah, I probably wouldn't win. Enough people do that if you're like, hey, that's an opportunity for me, you're thinking along the right lines. So so feel free to follow the link. I'll put the link in the chat here in a minute as well, to the April newsletter, and see what you think, because loads of good things there for you. Man, what the video that starts the worth the watch section this month, Richard? Oh my God, this video about the Chinese couple who helped families who've got a loved one in the hospital by giving them a place to cook meals. Oh my God, it's so good. So at any rate, feel free, April newsletter, win. I've written some books, which I hope you'll take a look at as well. And speaking of books, Richard.
Oh, you can check out the Practical EdTech newsletter. And if you do so, you'll get a copy of my Practical EdTech handbook, which is a whole bunch of my favorite tools for teaching with technology.
70 pages, is that right?
About 70 pages.
Cool.
And I also have another ebook that you can get a copy of called 50 Tech Tuesday Tips. That's on the next screen. And that one is designed for that tech coach, tech integrator, library media specialist who on Monday afternoon gets asked, hey, can you do a workshop for us tomorrow? Yeah, I can. And you got a whole bunch of things you can do right there. And every one of those tips could be its own little half-hour to 30-minute workshop, half-hour to 60-minute workshop. And if you really want me to do it for you, any school that buys 10 copies of it, I'll come and do a webinar for you. So cool. Oh, you go to my YouTube channel. Check out my YouTube channel. And you can join us next month, Thursday, May 12th.
Next month, it'll be the second Thursday of the month because I will be away for the first, but we are excited to see you on May 12th. Feel free to join us. And with that, we want to thank you for spending a little time learning a little bit about this, that, and the other technology. Hopefully finding some excitement in the Kikori app or the the weird workouts video and its controversy or whatever it is that you run across. But we thank you for joining us. And if you are still with us after we stop the recording moments from now, you can just keep asking us questions. We're happy to do that because we're nice guys like that. So with that, thank you very much, and we'll see you next month.